All right, now let's quickly run through the storylines you need to know on the offensive, defensive, and special teams side. Special teams, we kind of already went halfway through, but want to get through these rapid fire so that you are ready to get started with New Orleans Saints training camp as it gets underway today. So just to recap over on special teams, Wil Lutz not available to begin the training camp, but should be back very soon. 2 punters in contention here for the punter spot, Blake Gillikin and Nolan Cooney. If you want to hear more on that breakdown, go back to yesterday's episode of Locked on Saints. 3rd segment, Dylan Sanders broke it down beautifully. And you're also going to be looking at a potential return battle if Deontay Harris ends up being suspended for the first couple of games. Guys to watch are going to be Marquez, Callway. It's going to be Kawaan Baker, Jalen McCleskey, as well as Lawrence Woods in that role. And you're also going to watch Jalen McCleskey and Lawrence Woods and Marquez Callaway as potential gunners to watch in special teams as well. Okay, when it comes down to long snapper, nothing there. It's all Zach Wood all day. All right, let's look at the offense now. Drew Brees has retired, which means either Jameis Winston or Taysom Hill is going to be your quarterback. There's a legitimate quarterback competition that begins today and probably won't end until just before the week 1 game or just before the week 1 practice gets underway. So big one to watch there. Of course, that's going to be the top and sort of biggest storyline that everyone's going to be watching nationally. Michael Thomas expected to miss the beginning of the season. So who is it that steps into the wide receiver roles for the New Orleans Saints, especially now with Deontay Harris expecting to be suspended as well, or at least a looming potential suspension is there for him. Tight end room saw a lot of turnover. Jared Cook in Los Angeles. Josh Hill went to Detroit and then retired. So Adam Troutman is stepping up there. Adam Troutman, Garrett Griffin, those are your returning guys, but you've added guys like Dylan Sainer, as well as, of course, Nick Van Ette, one of the Saints' earlier free agent additions to watch. And Juwan Johnson is transitioning over to the tight end position from the wide receiver position. How will that work out and how will the tight end room shake out is going to be a lot of fun to watch. The offensive line and running back look pretty good. You're going to want to watch Landon Young throughout camp and watch him battle it out with some of the other depth guys when it comes to the offensive line, but a big one to watch. And of course, Ryan Ramczyk got paid over the course of this offseason. Could we be seeing an extension as well for Teron Armstead at some point throughout camp? That is a potential. Mickey Loomis said yesterday that they have no qualms at all with continuing to negotiate with guys throughout. And between Marshon Lattimore and Teron Armstead, those seem like the most likely negotiations that could continue. And then, of course, your running back position looks really good with Alvin Kamara and Latavius Murray. I imagine Ty Montgomery, Dwayne Washington are going to be the battles there, but you can also watch Stevie Scott and Tony Jones Jr. All right, let's jump over to the defensive side to wrap this up. Top defensive tackle for the New Orleans Saints, David Onyemata, has been suspended for 6 games, which means that he won't be available to return until after the Monday night game on week 7 against the Seattle Seahawks. So who is going to step up in place of him, but also who's going to step up next to him as the other defensive tackles for the New Orleans Saints that had a lot of starts and snaps last season, Sheldon Rankins, as well as Malcolm Brown, are also both now out of New Orleans. Sheldon Rankins now in New York, and Malcolm Brown traded to the Jacksonville Jaguars for a 7th round pick that became the eventual traded pick that led to the Landon Young draft pick out of Kentucky. Also, Trey Hendrickson is out, but the New Orleans Saints invested a 1st round selection in edge rusher out of Houston, Peyton Turner. We'll see how the edge rusher position continues to work out with guys like Cam Jordan and Marcus Davenport set to return, and guys like Carl Granderson as well, who could potentially end up playing his way into more snaps, and of course the addition of Peyton Turner. A looming suspension for Marshon Lattimore means you have to watch out and see who's going to stand up not only in place of the open cornerback 2 position opposite him, because Janoris Jenkins is now a Tennessee Titan, but also potentially who's going to step up in his place as well. As we discussed earlier, the New Orleans Saints still very much see the cornerback position as a must. The longer it takes, the more I'm convinced they're looking at a trade. Doesn't mean that they will look at a trade, just the more I'm convinced of it at this point. So we'll see how all of this plays out. And it might not play out soon. So something to continue to watch throughout. Who's going to be the linebacker next to Demario Davis? Is it going to be Pete Werner, who was drafted in the 2nd round out of Ohio State and is getting work at will linebacker? Or is it going to end up being Zach Bond, who the Saints invested a 3rd round selection in last year and have been working at the will linebacker position as well? Or do they end up reuniting with Quan Alexander, who they brought in for a visit earlier this offseason? All stuff to watch there. And, that's it. That's all. Just that. A ton of storylines to watch for the New Orleans Saints throughout training camp. And of course, we're going to watch every bit of it as closely as possible here on the Locked on Saints podcast.